Welcome, brethren, to another presentation today. It's entitled, Does the Sunday Law Happen Immediately After Ezekiel 9? Now, the reason why we're bringing this is because recently there's been some presentations put out that imply that the Ezekiel 9 church judgment happens and then immediately the Sunday Law is put into effect. And so we wanted to delve more deeply into this subject and come to the bottom of it and see how inspiration really teaches about the development of the Sunday Law in relations to Ezekiel 9. When does it happen, and what are the events that take place? Now, this chart here is very helpful because this is the harvest period chart. We're going to be referring back to this quite often in this presentation, and so we'll go over a lot of the issues here that we have. So before we begin, we ask that you kneel and pray, claim the promise of John 16:13, and he shall guide us into all truth. Let's begin. All right, so the text for our study is, Satan has the ability to suggest doubts and devise objections to pointed testimony that God sends. And many think it a virtue, a mark of intelligence in them, to be unbelieving and to question and quibble. Those who desire to doubt will have plenty of room. God does not propose to remove all occasion for unbelief. He gives evidence which must be carefully investigated with a humble mind and a teachable spirit, and all should decide from the weight of evidence. God gives sufficient evidence for the candid mind to believe, but he who turns from the weight of evidence because there are few things which he cannot make plain to his finite understanding will be left in the cold, chilling atmosphere of unbelief and questioning doubts, and will make shipwreck of faith. Testimonies 5, page 675 and 676. All right, so in this presentation, we're going to have study tools. We're going to look at the charts. We're going to look at fundamental beliefs and the written word from the message about our subject. So we're going to use these three study tools to come to our conclusion. All right, so now let's talk about charts. Now, in 5 charts in the message, we notice that they have pathways. And these pathways are very important because if you'll notice, each one of the events happen after the one prior. So we see a timeline. And so these paths are always indication of a timeline. And we have to remember that that is how inspiration is teaching us through the chart pathways. Now, you can't take, for instance, 1931 Angel and put him over here, right? You've got to have these things develop, and they have to happen one after another. Now, there's long periods of time between the events, and there's short periods of time. But the key is that they have a pathway of a timeline. Let's go on to the next one. Same thing with the world's history and prophetic symbols. You see the flood and the Babylon, Medo-Persia, Grecia, the beast in two sections here, and so forth. So you see everything happening in order, and the events after the other. So this is very telling right here. The judgment, investigative judgment, the 7 seals, same thing. Seven trumpets, the same thing. So when we learn how inspiration works with the pathways, it really is a mockery to say, well, all the other charts have pathways and shows the events after each other, but you see these 3 right here, you really can't take them what they say. Brethren, this is mockery. We can't do that. We have to go according to how inspiration works. So to say that Ezekiel 9 These all three happen right at Ezekiel 9. There's no development of these events, is mockery. Okay, so let's be very careful in what we're teaching out there. We can't be throwing out inspiration. Inspiration is very clear in regards to these pathways. All right, the beasts and their time placement confirmed in 1941. So let's see what 1941, which was after the 1931 chart, says. And that's found in track 12, page 41. The beast being in the wilderness indicates that at the time it comes into existence, there's a vineyard. Obviously, it would be superfluous to designate the wilderness if the whole world is wilderness. For full details concerning these symbolic beasts, read Shepherd's Rod, Volume 2. So we see that some argue that, well, in 1931, when you see the harvest chart, it wasn't really exactly the right placement. The Brother Houteff didn't have the light and so forth and so on. No, that's not true, because back in 1941, well after the time, 1937, that the kingdom light came, Brother Houteff says, go back to the shepherd's rod and you will know more about the beast. Okay, the Babylon beast, the two-horned beast, and so forth. You'll know more from this book right here. So don't you let anybody tell you that this is outdated, all right? And especially about these beasts, because the message itself tells us to go back and review it to know more. So that's why that harvest period chart is still very applicable as far as the timeline goes today. All right, so these are some words from the message that show that the Church Federation happens before the Sunday Law. And we highlighted them in red because that is very indicated that there must be a Church Federation set up before the Sunday Law. And we'll pause here and you can read these for a moment. Okay, so we see here that it's confirmed that all nations will follow in the footsteps of the two-horned beast. So once the two-horned beast, and again, this is harmonized with that chart, is that once the two-horned beast sets up this Sunday Law, then it goes worldwide into the world, into Babylon, which is, like I said, perfectly harmonized with the chart. All right, Sunday Law placement according to the harvest chart. So if we go back to the harvest chart, we remember that Ezekiel 9 comes after the sealing message seals 144,000. The churches come together as a union, church federation. Then the two-horned beast and the false prophet come together to form the Sunday Law, and it's first established in the United States. Number 4, the Sunday Law goes worldwide into Babylon. So that's what the chart is showing us. And again, we're showing evidence from the written word that supports this timeline as well. All right, now we're going to go on to the fundamental beliefs, and we're well familiar with this part here. Number 4 is the Ezekiel 9 church judgment. Immediately thereafter, the angels let loose the 4 winds. Now, the trip up here is the word immediately. You know, when some brethren read this immediately, they think that, okay, immediately these winds are let loose and the winds indicate the Sunday Law, so immediately the Sunday Law is set up. No, brethren. This is just a misreading and misunderstanding of what inspiration is telling us. And, of course, you have 6, which is... it does not anticipate, which means predict. It does not predict a world war, but rather a worldwide decree enforced throughout Babylon by the image beast. So it's predicting that the ultimate phase of it will be a worldwide decree. And that's what the winds are indication of. That's what they are predicting. And we will put a link in the message chat area there where you can find our other presentation that we go more into these fundamental beliefs. All right, so we go back here and we see that fundamental beliefs is in total harmony with this chart. We know that this is the destruction of the tares in the church purification, and that we know that this part here is on their way home, and that is the Jacob's time of trouble occurs, and while that's happening, the churches are coming together to form the church federation. All right, so there's talking to each other, formulating their game plan, and then the kingdom, while this is happening right then, the kingdom is being set up. Now you see this loud cry here. Some brethren are saying, well, so you see that line, it has loud cry? That means immediately the loud cry happens after Ezekiel 9. No, it doesn't. It means the loud cry period begins. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it starts right at Ezekiel 9. Another example would be the 1929 sealing, right? We can't say that the saints were beginning to be sealed for translation here. No, it's the beginning of the message, the period of the sealing message. So in the same token, we have to say this is the period of the loud cry, not necessarily the beginning right there at Ezekiel 9. And we'll prove that with further references here. All right, so Daniel 12:1 in context. Now, the thing that we have to remember is that in fundamental belief number 5, immediately thereafter, the angels let loose the 4 winds, whereupon ensues the time of trouble, and Michael's standing up to deliver from it, all whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life, Daniel 12:1. So some are saying, well, the time of trouble is the Sunday law, so that happens again right after Ezekiel 9. But the Daniel 12:1 in context is the following. And then, of course, it's quoted here, and it says, by delivering the righteous, he thoroughly separates the righteous from among the wicked. He puts the good fish in the vessels and casts out the bad. He shall cleanse his people from sin and sinners. 2TG number 33, page 10. And then, of course, it has the further second reference, 7 symbolic code number 712, page 19. As seen from Malachi 4:5, the great and dreadful day of the Lord comes as a result of the proclamation of the message of Elijah, the prophet. Thus, rather than being Christ's second appearing, is obviously on the one hand his setting his seal upon the forehead of the righteous, Revelation 14:1 and 7:9, and bringing his judgments, the wrath of the Lamb, upon the wicked, Revelation 6:15 to 17. And on the other hand, Satan's warring against the remnant, Revelation 12:17. This conflict between God and Satan brings in the time of trouble such as never was, at the beginning of which Michael stands to deliver everyone that shall be found written in the book, Daniel 12:1. It is the great and dreadful day of the Lord, great for the righteous, dreadful for the wicked. Once it begins, it continues, as Spirit Prophecy says, without respite to the end, Christ's second appearing. And so we see there that Daniel 12:1 is a deliverance of the saints in this context. And that is in fundamental beliefs number 5, that we have to put it in that context. We can't say that Daniel 12:1 is talking about delivering from the Sunday law. That doesn't make any sense. We have to understand that it's talking about what these two references refer to, and that is deliverance from the wicked. We're found in, God willing, we're found in the book of life, and we're delivered from the terrors. So we have a special note, the deliverance spoken of in fundamental number 5 is the deliverance of the saints, 144,000, from the tares in the church, not the Sunday law. So let's not get confused on our fundamental beliefs. All right, so what is God's plan for the loud cry message? Well, it's an organizational setup from the Holy Land. And of course, this one is found in 1TG number 8, page 26 and 27. And this is very important, brethren, because this shows the setup that God's going to have for the loud cry. And we'll read the highlight here. What can all this mean? Just this. Joshua is heaven's appointed judge, ruler. He himself is crowned as such. And in response to the Lord's own command, Joshua crowns, authorizes his helpers, whom the Lord himself names. In other words, as members of the house of David, Joshua authorized them to do what? To engage in the work. So Joshua is responsible to the Lord, but his helpers are responsible to Joshua. Here is seen an organization having a leader and under leader, the Lord and Joshua. Thus it is that whatever is to be bound on earth is also to be bound in heaven. Matthew 16:19. So this is so powerful, brethren, that the work is going to be organized. So when you are given a presentation saying, well, immediately after Ezekiel 9, then we're going to go out in the loud cry, that doesn't make any sense. It's mockery of the message. Because we have to make our way back to the kingdom, set up the kingdom, and then anti-typical Joshua authorizes the workers to go out into Babylon, go out into the world. Okay, so this is very clear, and all the pieces are starting to come together once we know the message. All right. This is more quotes to prove that, for instance, in 7 Symbolic Code, number 712, page 10, the kingdom church conclusively, therefore, must be what? Set up before the devil turns upon the remnant. So before the Sunday law happens, the kingdom church must be set up. And again, it's harmonized with all the other references and the charts. And now this is very important, 2 Shepherd's Rod, page 158. But as God's people have been warned of it all, okay, they refuse to worship the image of the beast, which is a false international religion. Okay, so there's a warning that's going to go out first before this Sunday law takes place. And this is very key. This is how God's loud cry plan works. And again, we have 2TG number 44, page 49. Thus, the kingdom is set up in probationary time, in the time of salvation and judicial purification. For after it is set up, remember that, for after it is set up, other people from many nations flow into it. All right, so we see again, the kingdom must be set up for the great multitude to come into. All right, so let's look at a summary of God's loud cry plan. Church is purified. Saints return home. On their way, they experience Jacob's time of trouble. That can be found in Fundamentall Belief number 7. The kingdom headquarters is built as the church federation builds its union. That's the dual events happening at the same time. While the saints are in the kingdom, building up the headquarters, the church federation is likewise building up their headquarters and their union. The workers are authorized to engage in loud cry work to reach the great multitude. The false prophet appears and does miracles and connects with the two-horned beast. So it appears to be that once this loud cry work goes out in the world and starts making headway, the false prophet does his miracles to counter the power, counter the great things happening. And so there's going to be a dual work here. And that will be in connection, obviously, in the United States, the two-horned beast. The loud cry is given mightily, come out of her, my people, a worldwide warning prior to the Sunday law. The Sunday law starts in the United States, so after the success of the coming out of Babylon, the false prophet and the beast are going to implement the Sunday law. And that starts in the United States. Then it goes to the world, the Babylon phase. Again, perfect harmony with the Harvard chart. The great multitude is brought in, then probation closes. So, brethren, we have seen a perfect picture of end-time events. All right, now we got more proof that you cannot have the Sunday law starting immediately after Ezekiel 9. And this is found in 2 Symbolic Code number 1, page 9 and 10. And I'll read the highlight part there. The only thing that would compel him to pass blue Sunday laws and go to make war with the remnant of her seed, with those that are left, Revelation 12:17, is the purity of the church, when God, by the slaughter weapons of Ezekiel 9, takes away the tares which receive not the mark. And even then, Satan will not enact blue Sunday laws until after, now note this, after he has exhausted every other weapon against the church. So, brethren, this is his last weapon. So to say that after Ezekiel 9, immediately Satan comes in and gives his Sunday law, that would make a mockery of this statement of inspiration right here, because that's the first weapon he'll use. No, brethren, it's the last. So he's going to have other methods of persecuting God's people. And then this goes again with that perfect harmony of the chart. The union sets up with the church federation. The kingdom is built. All these things are happening. And at the same time, Satan is finding ways to persecute God's people. We don't know exactly the extent or what that persecution is, but obviously it's not the Sunday law at the beginning. It's some other type of persecution. All right, so again, we go back to this reference, track 12, page 41. You want to know about the beast? Read the Shepherd's Rod, volume 2. And this is 1931. This was in that time period of the Shepherd's Rod. And we see, once again, beautiful harmony, brethren. Of all that we know, it's just perfect harmony. Ezekiel 9, Church Federation, the Loud Cry Kingdom being set up at the same time. The success causes this two-horned beast and the false prophet to put out their game plan, which is the determined to deceive the world by miracles and laws. So the Sunday law is developed here. Then it goes into the union of the church and state worldwide, and that's when the time of the sealing of the second fruits and the time of Babylon, where the Sunday law is gone worldwide. All right, so let's close with a couple very important quotes. It is imperative, therefore, that every present truth believer teach and practice only present truth. That is, teach nothing more or less than what is published, and do nothing more or less than what the message calls for. Thus putting aside your own thoughts and your own ways, and availing yourself to the Lord's, Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. In exclusive devotion to the Spirit of truth, you will see eye to eye and speak the same thing. Then only will you be able to dispel the spirit of confusion and retain the spirit of love and unity. 7 Symbolic Code number 712, page 18. I have been shown that the greatest reason why the people of God are now found in this state of spiritual blindness is that they will not receive correction. 3 Testimony, page 255. So, brethren, if you have or you know somebody that's been teaching these false end-time ideas, we have to be corrected. Otherwise, we're going to remain in this spiritual blindness. We've seen very clearly the end-time events from the whole message. This is the charge. This is the written word. This is the fundamental beliefs. We've seen how it's going to play out. And so, let's stand upon this truth, and then we're going to have love and unity for each other. We're going to be able to go forth powerfully to teach Mother the right timeline, the right events that happen one after another. This is what it's about, brethren. So again, we thank you for listening, and we hope that we've shed a little more light on the end time events. Until next time, may the Lord continue to guide you into all truth. Amen.